Good day. I hope everybody has been doing well. If you can tell by my face, I've been out in the sun today. And so I'm here hot and a little bit flushed, but that'll be okay. I'm used to it. But it's great to be back with you as we continue these series and discussions on various topics that interest us as we navigate the times that we're living in and as we approach the ideas of what we're looking for in a life in Jesus Christ. My name is Mark Mitchell. I'm the preaching minister at Park Avenue Church of Christ. Normally, I am joined by Steve Fox, but Steve is out of town this week. So, Sean is getting a taste of what it feels like to substitute for Steve Fox. How you doing there, buddy?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I have sat where you sat, because when I first started, I was coming here, I looked at somebody and said, how do you follow Steve Fox? I mean, are you guys sure you want me to follow Steve Fox? You've heard me preach, right?
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, no, that's why I was thinking to them. I was like, hey, you sure? So you this week get to spend time with us and help us talk about things. And of course, I gave you the choice of topics this week. What'd you find for us?
I wanted to go a little bit on a topic with the Sermon on the Mount. The verses that I was wanting to go through in the NIV, it's labeled Treasures in Heaven, and it starts in verse 19 and goes through 24. If we have time, we'll go, we hope maybe to go through maybe 25 through 34.
Okay. Well, what you guys don't realize, that was for a few minutes beforehand, Sean and I were talking amongst ourselves about the topic of the Sermon on the Mount, and share with us your insight that got you on this path you're on with right now.
Well, about a year ago, we watched a video series on the Sermon on the Mount. I believe it was called Living Jesus, and it was done by Randy Harris.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I had read the Sermon on the Mount before, but I never really put a lot of thought and emphasis into it. I knew it was teaching, but in his studies, it was more of, is this something that a standard that we maybe can't go to, or is this something that we can put in our everyday lives? And I'm more leaning towards that this is something we can put into our everyday lives.
And as you and I were talking about, Martin Luther was one of the individuals who first put out that this was an impossibility for humanity to live the Sermon on the Mount, and that some would say that Jesus was just putting out the life what the life should look like, the life that he lived. And we all know we can't live Jesus' life. I'll never forget when, you remember the WWJD bracelets that came out, What Would Jesus Do?
Yes. And,
they became very popular. And I can remember, every time something came up, you think to yourself, what would Jesus do, But the trouble is, Jesus was perfect.
Yes.
I don't think I'm capable of it. So what would Jesus do? I mean, I know that's a great concept or great idea, but I think as I shared with you, for myself, I find myself in a place of tension. I know what it looks like, but am I capable of doing it?
Exactly. The passage that grabs me is the very end of the sermon, and it's almost like they said the VBS song with the wise man and the foolish build his house on the rock. But in verse 24 it says, "Therefore everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against the house, yet it did not fall, because it has foundation on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell with a great crash. And the word that grabs me there is practice.
Yeah.
I mean, in no way do I believe Christ thinks that we're going to be perfect. But the more we put what he's wanting from us into our everyday lives and continue to practice and to read Scripture and try to do the things, the better we're going to get at it, like in anything in life.
Yeah. I guess what we need to, as followers of Jesus Christ, is to keep in mind, this is what our intent is, but in all actuality, we're not going to be able to do it. So we continue to do the best we can. We make sure that our goal, that our thought process is based on the ideas that Jesus taught. I remember when someone was asking me when I was doing all the carpentry stuff for all those years. So I said, asked, how did you learn how to do that? And I go, practice.
Yes.
You know, I mean, you do not build anything just by going. They can give you all the books they want, but you can't build anything from a book. You literally have to put your hands in the wood, the sawdust, the hammers, the nails, all those things, and you can't, and it takes years of practice to get good at being a carpenter. And most carpenters go through a process of being apprentices. They learn from the master, if you will, and they follow his techniques. They see how he does things. And the Sermon on the Mount for us is our blueprint in what the master carpenter, Jesus Christ, is teaching us. And you've, of course, got us on this Treasures in Heaven, which you can't ever go wrong with this one.
No.
I mean, living in 21st century society, whew, this one's a hard one.
Especially today.
Yes.
You were talking about practice earlier. I remember watching an interview with Michael Jordan, and he was talking about practice because one of the guys was talking about what he did in the game. It's like, man, that's nothing. You should see what he does in practice.
Yeah.
And he says, basically, I practice as harder in practice. Then when game time comes, he goes, I don't really worry about it because I know what I can do.
Yeah.
I know when I get out there, it's no big deal because I practice it every day and put forth the effort.
Absolutely.
So we're never going to be perfect at this. There's just no way. We're not meant to be. But I believe that especially a lot of things in the Sermon on the Mount is almost like a self-evaluation of yourself. It kind of delves deep into what's going on with the person. So I think it's something we can continue to look at and continue to grow with.
Well, I'm with you there 100%. I'm always nervous, or not necessarily nervous, but concerned that too many times my engagement into everyone is I'm always asking them to look at their life, to look at what they're doing, to look at what they're saying, to look at the practices that they have. And I know that sometimes it's too much of it. You can have too much introspective. But at the same time, you and I both know that if we're not gauging what we're doing, it's so easy to pick up bad habits, and before you know it, you've moved from the realm of Jesus Christ as far as the practice of what he does, and you've moved into stuff that the world does, secular practices, where it's just work as many hours as you can, who cares about the kids, all these variations, that come into play.
Yeah.
Well, you want to read for us what you got in mind for today?
Okay. We're going to be in Matthew 6, and we'll start with verse 19. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And
whatever you want, however you want to do this. You want to stop and talk about that first for a minute, because they are sort of
intertwining.
They're intertwined, but they're specific to what they're speaking about. I don't know about you, but there's the question. I remember when a guy said to me, he said, "What do you think about all the time?" And that was during a period of my life that I was thinking about how to make money, how to improve my golf game. All these things were encompassing my thoughts when I was driving from home to work. If I was sitting in traffic, what was I thinking about? Because whatever you're thinking about are these things, whether it be money, how to pay the bills, how to do something better, how to get control of this situation, whatever it may be. We don't grasp that because whatever our mind is, that literally is what we're interested in.
I found some of these questions that were emphasized toward the scripture that we were reading. And one of them that kind of hit home was, what is the time and investment you have in stuff compared to how much time and investment you have in relationships with God and others?
Oh.
And if we're honest with ourselves, we put a lot of emphasis on stuff. Whether it's bills, cars, houses, whatever you want to talk about, whatever you want to throw into the box there, we put a lot of emphasis on things.
Imagine if all of us today could have have the ability to look at our search engines on our computers or whatever, our devices, on all the things that we've looked at during the last 2 or 3 months, and then compare it to how many times we were actually engaged with someone else, or study, or just having a conversation with somebody. When we balance those out, when we look at them, we begin to see there is a pattern going on in most of our lives. And the problem with it is it reflects in how we live those lives.
Yeah. Especially now. I mean, if this doesn't open people's eyes now, then whatever is going to open up, because where he says, do not store up treasures on earth which moths and vermin destroy, thieves break in, but store yourself up treasures in heaven where moths and vermin do not destroy, where thieves do not break in. We've had this virus now, and a lot of people, everything they thought was important has kind of crumbled around them. Whatever. There's been people whose emphasis on building a successful business, well, guess what? That business is gone now because it's been shut down for so long. You don't have the people who put their emphasis in their retirement accounts so they can live past 60 live and have a good retirement. Now the retirement funds have been almost gashed because of this, and so.
Yeah, we're postponing now, so.
Not that that's not an emphasis.
I know, but you're exactly right. If that's where our goals and our efforts are,
yeah,
we are missing it. Absolutely. One of the things, and Steve and I talked about it in the first part of when we started these, was the fact that people actually were asking, anybody and everybody was willing to sit down and pray with you. Okay?
Yeah.
For the first time in a long time, people were actually opening up their minds and their hearts to a concept that is there something else than jobs, careers? People have faith in our government system sometimes more than they do in God.
Yeah.
When they watched this thing begin to crumble and everything, and nobody had an answer. Nobody had an answer. And they're looking at one another like, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? I mean, that was the biggest question. What do we do? What do we do? Well, in a relationship with Jesus Christ, okay, you just put one foot in front of another, just keep on walking.
Yeah.
We never had an answer to begin with.
And I mean, and the answers change daily. And it changes daily. The data keeps coming out. They said it was going to be this, then it was way low this. Now they're saying it's going to go back up, then they're going to say it's go back down. It's a never-ending cycle. And nobody will just come out and say,
We
I don't know.
Yeah, what was that? Steve's favorite saying in the beginning was, when this thing was going on, I don't know. And there's nothing wrong with I don't know. Truthfully, we've put too much emphasis on making sure that we did know when that's some of those pursuits actually part of chapter 6 later down. Your verse 25 here. Therefore, don't worry. All these things are our effort to gain control of something we don't have control of.
Exactly. I heard a professor, I believe it was, I can't remember his name, but he was talking about what you put your stock into. Basically, hang your peg up.
Yeah.
And he's like, it could be your job, it could be your career, it could be having a good family, it could be anything. But what happens when that peg gets knocked out? And he's like, so we need to be careful about what we hang our peg on, because it can easily come out like that. This is definitely a time where I think Christians all around can show people that there's another way, because we have the ability now, because now people see the government's failed us. That's kind of what a lot of them are thinking. They have no answers. Who has an answer? And I'm not saying we have all the answers, but we can at least show them that what we're doing now, our life, our physical life, this is not what your end goal is.
Well, like earlier there from the very last passages of the Sermon on the Mount about the wise builder and the foolish builder. You can either build your life on the concepts that you're going to figure everything out, which that's foolish thinking, because you're saying that you are the smartest person you know, everyone else doesn't know, and so we're going to do it my way. I'll always do it my way. And in truth, that's foolish. No one has the answers. In fact, we keep reading the scriptures trying to gain knowledge, but we also have the Holy Spirit, which gives us insight, and we have God in relationships where He gives us those things that we need to know, the paths that we need to choose, much like this Sermon on the Mount thing, this life, the practice that we ought to be doing, here it is. This is what it looks like, This is what it looks like.
And that kind of goes with what this first passage is what do you, and what's at the end it says, where your treasure is, that's where your heart will be also, not where your heart is, that's where your treasure will be. It's what you're putting your emphasis on, what your focus, that's where your heart's going to be. If it's about money, that's where it's going to be. If it's about just your family, that's where it's going to be. But that's where your focus is going to be, and where our focus should be is our first thing should be on Christ. Like that question, how much time do you invest? There's times where I come home from church, left my Bible in the car. The next time I go to church, it's the first time I've seen it since.
I know.
So
well,
it's but it's one of those things. Is like how much am I putting into it? And the only way that I'm going to grow, the only way I'm going to get better at doing these things is to invest more, to put more practice into it.
I know that, and difference in my life is the fact that for a long time I didn't go to school to be a minister. I wasn't come out of college and and I've always done this. I actually, like a lot of people, had a life where I worked a job, I owned a business, and I did all these things, and my pursuits changed at a moment in my life where I've shared this many times, but it's just there came to a point where life didn't make sense to me, living it the way the world was saying live it, because I found no joy in it whatsoever. There was nothing. Much like Solomon in Ecclesiastes, I chased everything, and I couldn't find anything worth it. And there was nothing worth having. So, getting your life, finding treasure in Christ, actually, one of the biggest things is just getting ourselves out of the way.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, very true.
Moving those, where you talked about just now, for where your treasure, that's where your heart would be also. Well, letting go of things that you find that you want, it's not easy.
No, it's not.
I mean, it's not easy. I still want a few things.
Tools is my thing. I love getting new tools.
I used to be there.
My son would be like, "Daddy, we'll get you a new tool." I mean, that's what he would say for Father's Day. We'll get you a new tool. But
Yeah.
I like tools. I like doing things with them, building things, whatever. But sometimes I'll get on something and start looking at it, and but I had to realize that shouldn't be my primary focus.
Well, on the flip side of it too, though, as a guy, we're always thinking to ourselves, I've got to be the prepared father, So, we do the best we can. I mean, I'm still hoping that someday to break 70. I mean, break 60, I'm sorry. I broke 70 lots of times. But I'd love to start breaking 60. So, but I don't see that happening. But unless I changed, my pursuits would have to change, where all my time, where all my time, where I was putting my treasure. Now, but then I hang out with a few guys who play golf, and for some of them, they've exchanged a life with Christ for a game of golf. I mean, there are people whose lives is tied up in not doing nothing but fishing or hunting or camping or whatever it may be. There's always something that you can find that you feel like, ooh, this would be fun and exciting, and the next thing you know, you're chasing after it. Like, it's going to fill that void in your heart that will make everything all gooey and wonderful in life. God's the only thing that can fix that.
Yeah. And you were talking about not going to school to be a minister, but I think it's good to continue to learn, to continue to study and grow into the Word. And I think sometimes maybe that's too much of an if, where you're instead of putting what you've learned into what we do in our everyday lives and going out and doing the things that Christ wants us to do, we kind of lose that in the pursuit of, well, I need to study as much as I can because I got to be right about. And you got to think these New Testament, the people in the New Testament, they didn't have a New Testament.
No.
They were given the Word and they met with each other, but that was about it. I mean, and they went out and tried to do what Christ wanted them to do.
They were working it out as they were going along themselves. And that's a great point, because I know that for too many times in my life, I would spend 10 times as much time reading than I would spending time talking to someone about Jesus. Now, that is an unbalanced life.
Yeah.
Now, most people think, oh, no, you're doing studying about Jesus. That's a great thing. Well, in perspective, it's a good thing, but anything out of balance is a problem. And sometimes our pursuits are self-indulgent. I want to be the smartest preacher. I want to be the one who has all the answers. You know, so yeah, it's this. Your treasure can also be something as trivial as that.
Yeah, some people want to have all the answers and be ready to rebuke someone if they come up with another answer, and which I'm not saying that's bad or good, but my thing is, eventually we have to practice what Christ has taught us to do. Instead, I mean, I remember one time we were in church, and Beth, one of her friends, there was a fire, and I believe she lost all the Christmas presents.
Mm-hmm.
And that day, and it was right before church, and of course, immediately everybody goes up and gives her money. And just, at first she was going to try to collect funds, but that one day she was able to go and get whole new presents for him and give it back to him. I was like, no, Rip, now I could go and talk to somebody about Christ all I want, but what happened there probably have more of an impact on that woman than it would. These people who have no clue who she is just replenished her kids with new Christmas gifts. Now, whether it's going to do anything, I don't know, but you have to think that makes a huge impact on people.
Oh, absolutely. The life that we live with Christ is a drip, drip, drip approach. You're never going to convert someone with all of a sudden you're going to give them this, they're going to have an epiphany of understanding, and it all makes sense to me. No, generally what happens is drip by drip by drip, they begin to notice something about someone else's life, or someone has an impact in their life, and the next thing you know, they're like, they're following Jesus Christ and didn't even realize it. It's happening because the people that they're around all of a sudden has impacted them in such a way that it changes them. And so one of the most beautiful things about the Sermon on the Mount is what a lot of the things that Jesus doesn't say. Mainly the Sermon on the Mount is talking about what life looks like, what faith in Jesus Christ or faith in God looks like. And it doesn't look like being perfect. It doesn't look like being holy. What the world constitutes holy, in the fact that you look like you're perfect.
Yeah.
You don't ever make a mistake. That's foolish. I make mistakes all the time.
Exactly.
Too many. So let's go ahead and try to get this little bit left here of our time.
In verse 22, it's a kind of a 22 through 23. It's kind of a strange passage.
Mm-hmm.
But it says, "The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eyes are unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. If the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness?"
Mm-hmm.
And Christ talks about the eyes once before, and it's about lust. And if your right eye is going to cause you gouge it out, it's better to be without your eyes than to perish in hell. But it's when I think of this, and it's almost the word coveting, like you covet something.
My first reaction when I think about it is, it's like you're walking down the street, and next thing you know, you see this guy in a sports car, a nice sports car, and it drives by, and all of a sudden you're looking. It catches your eye, and the next thing you're thinking to yourself, man, I'd like to have one of those. Or you're walking, I'm going to use it on you now, you're walking down the tool aisle, and you see this tool that's hanging on their shelf would look great on your shelf, Of course, for me, I can walk in Dick's Sporting Goods and go by and see that putter. The things that catch our eye will draw us away. And generally, it is, you're right, it is a covetous heart that draws us away. Now, you and I are talking about things, primarily I was, but lust is a covetous eye too.
Yeah.
That's where you see someone and you think, oh, I want them, I want that. I mean, shoot, it can be food nowadays too. It can be more money. It can be prestige. Someone does something on Facebook and all of a sudden they've got 100,000 likes. But next person, I want that. I mean, that caught their eye. That's what I want.
Exactly.
So now they figure out, well, what do I got to do to get it? That is no doubt, that will lead to a body full of darkness, is because what are you willing to trade to get what caught your eye? What are you willing to give up?
Yeah. And you said the key word as I want. And that's I want. And we all are like that. In fact, I mean, we have commercials now. I mean, it's like, so there's people out there that are hired to make something look good to you, make you want, even if you don't need it.
Even if you don't need it, yeah.
You gotta have this.
I didn't know I needed that. How did they figure that out?
But and they're good at it. That's what they do.
I was like, I was watching a TV show and I forget what it was, and the guy was looking at something. He goes, "How much is it?" And he goes, $5. He goes, "You think you want it?" He goes, "Yeah, I think I do." "Do you know what it is?" "No." "I don't either, but I still want it." It's just the way we are.
Yeah, and it's that I want mentality, and I think that's when he talks about when your eyes become unhealthy, when this becomes all about what you want. Because whatever we do, even if whatever is it's never going to be enough. Because you get that next putter, you get that next tool, you get whatever. Well, guess what? There's going to be another one. There's going to be another iPhone. There's going to be another whatever you want to put in the spot that you're going to eventually want it. And in Christ earlier is like, it's time to put your focus on the things that aren't going to that need re-up.
Can you imagine if you went and bought a brand new car, and of course they keep extending the amount of days between the time you buy it till you have to make your first payment. Because by the time you got to make your first payment, are you still in love with the car to the degree that you were when you first drove out of the parking lot? No, you're not. And when you make that first payment, you think to yourself, man, am I an idiot or what? I'm signed up now I've got to do this for 3 or 4 years.
Sounded good at the time.
And it felt good at the time, too. I mean, it felt good driving home, looking around your neighbor's side. I know you see this car I got, man, it's nice. It's a primo car. But, next thing you know, you realize when you make that first payment, how stupid was I? And we're all that way. I'm just sitting there thinking to myself too. Have you ever ate that piece of pie that you thought after you got done think, I shouldn't have eaten that? That's your eye again. And how many times have we said, my eyes were bigger than my stomach? Well, maybe they weren't, but you keep it up, your stomach is going to be bigger than your eyes.
Yeah, but like you said, denying ourselves is very difficult.
Yes.
It's very difficult to deny what we want is difficult.
It is hard.
So it's another thing that we have to continue to practice on and try to deny ourselves the things that we know we don't need, but and not to keep, like the question says, not invest too much time in stuff that really has no value.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and read that, because actually verse 24 almost sums everything that you and I have been talking about.
No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate one and love the other, or you will be devoted to one and to despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money.
I remember the first time I'm reading this, or I heard someone talking about it. And of course, one reading has it is that you hate, I said, well, you're not supposed to hate, But in theory, to understand Eastern understanding is whatever you love, you should love it to such a degree that anything else would almost compare as hate.
Yeah.
But most of the time, I'm struggling on getting Jesus Christ on the top tier of my life. Everything else, myself included, is trying to be up there, being the most important, being the master of my life. And I'm not always ready to give it to God. I'm not always, for whatever reason. There are some days better than others, but for the most part, it's a day-to-day battle to make sure that I'm in the right place in this altar relationship. I'm the one being offered, not the one trying to be the one who's in charge.
Yes. And it's again, like you said, it's something we continue to practice on, and we have to try to keep focus on, because I read this, and some people, it's like, well, if I make money, then that means I can't be. I was like, no. I was like, I don't think that's our emphasis. I think is mainly is what we're putting our focus on, and especially money. Everything almost revolves around money.
Mm-hmm.
It did then. It does now.
Yeah.
I mean, it hasn't changed. Money, possessions, whatever you want to call it, it drives people to want to do things, get better jobs, whatever, because if you have it, you feel better about yourself. At least for a while, then it's something else.
Then something else comes along and steals your eye.
Yeah.
Yeah, no question about it. No question about it. I always, if you remember, when you watch these, Sean, I give Steve one of the last. If you were going to sum up what you find this passage that means to you, that you would want to tell someone, what would be the one thing that you would make sure that you got across to them?
The main thing would be to what is your focus on every day? What's your main focus? I mean, is it your job, just your family, whatever you want to put in the box? We need to put our number one focus on Christ and try to continue to push forward on that. What it sums up to me is just like where it says where your treasure is, that where your heart will be also, to make sure that Christ is our treasure and to make sure our heart is in that place, because it's so easy to go the other way.
Oh, yes.
Because I've gone, there's been Sundays where I've gone to church and I haven't come back till the next Sunday, and I sit there and think about when I'm in church. It's like, what have I been thinking about the whole week? Between now, because it wasn't on this. I was like, and that's the main thing. That's how easy you can be led away with other things. So I think that keeping your focus. How much time are you investing into this, into Christ? I think is the main emphasis. I think Christ was wanting to get to us on this.
I agree with you. I'm oftentimes thankful that I have the job that I have, because it does help me stay focused. Because I'm sort of like forced into this idea of being a minister. That okay, I've got to study. My focus is on it, and I've been on the other side of it. It is harder. It is harder. Thank you so much, Sean, for stepping in for Steve this week. I don't know. You may be here again next week, because I don't know when they're coming back. And if he's not here, what I would like for us to talk about the next time is how do we get Jesus focused in our life? what would that look like? Because I'm sure our listeners would be interested. Actually, I'm kind of interested in what we could find out. How do we maintain an interest in relationship to these things that seem to take our interest so quickly and so easily? And maybe we can take some steps going down that path. Thank you so much for joining us. We truly appreciate the time you took to listen to this, to listen to maybe me talk too much and Sean not enough, but hey. I took advantage of the fact that Steve wasn't here this week. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. But I hope everyone continues to stay safe. And I would encourage you in your daily walk to begin to maybe push the limits if you can. I mean, I'm not, if you've got health conditions that stop you from doing anything, I understand. But if you don't, I think there's a tendency sometimes for us just to get kind of used to being, kind of quarantined in place, if you will. It becomes too comfortable to stay away from people. And I know being around people can get kind of hard. So do some hard stuff. Get around some people that annoy you, that aggravate you, and be reminded of what it was like just being out there in public, getting along with everybody. We look forward to hopefully seeing you Sunday, if you can, be here at our worship services on Sunday at Park Avenue. They begin at 9:45. We would encourage you to come. Bring a friend. We are practicing social distancing, but we are at the same time, we got plenty of room. We got enough room to hold a few more people. If you get a chance to come, thank you again, Sean, and look forward to seeing everyone again next week. Thank you, and God bless.